If that constant ringing steals your focus at work, follows you into bed at night, or makes conversations feel like trying to listen through fog, hearing aids might be one of the most practical, evidence-informed tools you can try. Not because they magically stop the sound, but because they change what your brain hears. And for many people, that shift softens the prominence of tinnitus. Today we're going to treat choosing a hearing aid like a short, practical experiment. What kinds of devices exist, how they can help tinnitus, what features actually matter, how to evaluate a device on a trial, and what to expect in terms of cost and follow-up. If you want a printable checklist to compare devices and features while you watch, download the Hearing Aid for Tinnitus checklist linked below and keep it handy. Tinnitus is the perception of sound, ringing, buzzing, hissing, whooshing, when there's no external source producing it. It's common. Millions of adults notice it at some point. For many people, tinnitus is a symptom that accompanies hearing loss. The core idea to keep in mind is contrast. Imagine a room with a single bright lamp in a dim space. That lamp draws your eye. If you brighten the room with more light sources, the lamp becomes less dominant. In auditory terms, when hearing sensitivity drops, the internal ring can stand out against a quieter soundscape. Amplifying environmental sounds with a hearing aid reduces that contrast and often reduces how intrusive the tinnitus feels. Research and clinical experience consistently show that for people who have hearing loss alongside tinnitus, properly fitted hearing aids can reduce annoyance, improve concentration, and make sleep easier, though they rarely eliminate tinnitus outright. We'll be explicit about evidence limits as we go, and we'll emphasize the importance of a medical check when red flags appear. Before we dive into device types, take a moment to name your symptoms and gather a baseline. This is part of the experiment framework we'll use throughout. Rate your tinnitus annoyance on a 0 to 10 scale, where 0 is no bother and 10 is incapacitating. Rate your sleep quality and daytime concentration on the same 0 to 10 scale. Note when the sound is most noticeable, quiet rooms, at night, during stress, and whether it changes with loud noise exposure, caffeine, or stress. These simple, repeated measures are how you'll judge whether a hearing aid is helping. We'll return to this measurement plan when you're ready to trial a device. There are 4 broad device categories you need to understand: prescription, professionally fitted hearing aids, over-the-counter personal sound amplifiers, dedicated sound generators or maskers, and hybrid solutions that combine amplification with built-in sound therapy. Each has a role. Prescription hearing aids are medical devices, fitted and programmed by an audiologist or qualified dispenser.
Within that category, the most common physical styles are behind the ear, BTE, receiver in canal or receiver in the ear, RIC or right, in the ear or in the canal styles, ITE or ITC, and completely in canal or invisible in canal, CIC or IIC. BTE and RIC styles put the amplifier and controls in a housing behind the ear, with sound delivered to the ear canal through a custom ear mold or thin tubing. They're flexible and handle a range of hearing losses. ITE and CIC styles are custom molded to sit in the outer ear or deep in the canal, which some people prefer for cosmetic reasons, but can be harder to handle for those with limited dexterity or wax issues. For people with single-sided deafness, specialized solutions such as cross or bicross systems reroute sound from the poor ear to the better ear. Prescription devices are programmable to your audiogram, come with warranty and support, and typically include the clinic visits necessary to fine-tune fitting and tinnitus management features. OTC amplifiers, personal sound amplification products sold without professional fitting, have become more available. They can increase environmental sound and may offer meaningful benefit for someone with mild, symmetrical hearing loss who is comfortable doing their own adjustments. But OTC devices are not a substitute for a professional evaluation when tinnitus is bothersome or when hearing loss is moderate to severe or asymmetric. They're also not programmed to your audiogram. Because of that, the benefit for tinnitus is less predictable. Consider OTC devices as an accessible step for people who want to try amplification quickly and at lower cost, but insist on a medical or audiological evaluation if you experience red flags or limited improvement. Dedicated sound generators or maskers are devices designed primarily to provide continuous background sound, steady noise, nature sounds, or tailored soundscapes to reduce the perception of tinnitus. Some are standalone devices, small tabletop units, or wearable maskers. Others are built into hearing aids as integrated sound generators. For some people, these background sounds provide relief because they offer a steady acoustic reference that distracts attention away from the tinnitus. However, maskers are not a one-size-fits-all solution. Some people find them helpful, others find them distracting or annoying. The clinician's role is to help you match the sound type and level to your tolerance and goals. Finally, hybrid solutions combine amplification and sound enrichment. Modern hearing aids increasingly include tinnitus-specific programs, sound libraries, and smartphone apps that stream relaxing audio directly to the device. These hybrids let you address hearing loss and use curated sound therapy without carrying a separate masker. Useful if you want fewer devices and an integrated approach. To make concrete sense of those categories, imagine 4 patient archetypes.
Maria is 62, newly diagnosed with mild high-frequency hearing loss and a persistent high-pitched tinnitus that bothers her most in quiet. She's active, drives, and prefers small, discrete devices. For Maria, a clinician-fitted RIC with a tinnitus program and remote fine-tuning could be ideal because it amplifies speech and blends in sound therapy when she needs it. Mark is 45, tech-savvy, wants rechargeability and Bluetooth streaming to play relaxing sounds from his phone, and is comfortable with follow-up visits. He may prioritize newer models with integrated apps and teleaudiology. Joan is 78 and lives alone. Arthritis makes tiny batteries and fiddly controls a problem. A behind-the-ear model with rechargeable batteries and large push-button controls would fit her lifestyle. Henry is 55 and cost-conscious. He's considering an OTC amplifier to test amplification quickly. He can try it, but because his tinnitus is asymmetric and sometimes pulsatile, he also needs a formal medical evaluation to rule out other causes. How exactly do hearing aids help tinnitus? There are 3 overlapping mechanisms worth understanding. First, amplification reduces auditory contrast. When environmental sounds are louder and clearer, the tinnitus signal tends to recede into the background. Clinically, this is sometimes described as reducing central gain, a term that reflects how the brain adjusts sensitivity when input is reduced. Restoring input often reduces that upregulated gain. Second, hearing aids provide sound enrichment. Built-in maskers, streaming music, or environmental sounds give your auditory system alternative sounds to focus on. That can reduce attention on the tinnitus and therefore its emotional impact. Third, improved hearing reduces listening effort. When you hear speech and ambient cues better, you expend less cognitive energy trying to follow conversations. That decreased stress and fatigue can lower tinnitus bother because stress and fatigue are common amplifiers of tinnitus perception. Evidence supports these mechanisms to varying degrees. Randomized control trials and systematic reviews indicate that, for individuals with hearing loss, hearing aids can reduce tinnitus-related distress and improve quality of life. The magnitude and timing of benefit vary. Some people notice relief with days, many within weeks, and others after a few months of consistent use and adjustments. Keep in mind, the quality of evidence is mixed for some specific tinnitus-targeted technologies. Claims about notch filters or neuromodulation often require careful scrutiny. When we say research shows, we mean there is reasonable clinical evidence that amplification and sound enrichment help many people with hearing loss and tinnitus, but that no hearing aid can be guaranteed to stop tinnitus for everyone. This is where the experiment model matters. We don't buy a device and hope for the best. We set a baseline, run a controlled trial, and measure outcomes.
Start by documenting your baseline scores on tinnitus annoyance, sleep, and concentration as we discussed earlier. Record typical daily listening environments, quiet bedrooms, restaurants, workplaces, and note specific tasks you want to improve, like following conversation in a group. When you try a device, commit to wearing it consistently for the trial period recommended by the clinic, often between 30 and 90 days, depending on the practice and the vendor policies, and remeasure the same scales at predetermined intervals, 2 weeks, 6 weeks, and 3 months. Track not only your numeric scores, but qualitative notes. Are you less startled by the sound at night? Do you sleep longer? Is conversation less tiring? These repeated measures are how you'll judge an evidence-informed personal outcome. Fitting and programming matter more than style or price when it comes to tinnitus benefit. A well-fitted hearing aid that matches the audiogram and daily listening goals will almost always outperform a poorly fitted, expensive device. Fitting includes selecting the right amplification targets based on your hearing thresholds, setting comfortable sound levels, and adding tinnitus programs or sound generators if appropriate. After the initial fitting, expect 1 or more follow-up visits to fine-tune gain, adjust noise reduction and directional mic settings for noisy situations, and tweak the level and type of any integrated masker. Remote fine-tuning through an app can be convenient, but it should not replace at least one in-person verification that the device matches your ear acoustics, especially if the clinician needs to perform real ear measurements, which objectively measure the sound delivered to your ear canal and ensure targets are met.
Not every feature advertised as tinnitus-specific matters equally. Integrated maskers are useful for people who benefit from continuous background sound, but the particular sounds, broadband noise, ocean waves, or customized notch tones, are personal preferences rather than guaranteed solutions. Bluetooth streaming and smartphone apps are powerful because they let you stream structured therapies and relaxing soundscapes directly to the device. Rechargeability is a convenience and can improve consistent use, which is important because intermittent wear limits potential benefit. Directional microphones and noise reduction algorithms help with speech and noise, but can sometimes make the background quieter and unintentionally increase tinnitus contrast in very quiet settings, so those features need careful programming and optional manual control. The core principle is this: prioritize features that enable consistent wear and that support the trial you plan to run, rather than novelty features that don't address your specific goals. When you walk into a clinic, expect a sequence rather than a single moment of care.
The first step is an audiological evaluation, a full hearing test including pure tone thresholds and speech audiometry, and a tinnitus history that asks onset, pitch and loudness perception, how the tinnitus changes with sound exposure, and any red flag symptoms. The clinician should check for medical risk signs and, if needed, refer you for an ENT evaluation. Red flags include sudden onset or rapidly worsening hearing loss, tinnitus that's only on one side, pulsatile tinnitus that follows your heartbeat, facial numbness or weakness, balance problems, or neurological symptoms. If those are present, an urgent ENT or medical assessment is required before a routine hearing aid trial. Assuming no red flags, the fitting process moves to device selection, guided by your audiogram, lifestyle, dexterity, and cosmetic preferences. A good clinician will explain the trade-offs. Deep canal devices are cosmetically discreet, but harder to handle and may be less suitable for certain degrees of loss. BTE and RIC devices handle a wider range of hearing profiles and allow easier access for controls and larger batteries. The clinic should discuss trial options and return policies upfront. Many clinics offer 30 to 90-day trials. Ask whether the fee you pay includes follow-up programming, warranty, repairs, and whether accessories like rechargeable charges are included. If you're considering OTC devices, ask whether the clinic can still support you if the OTC approach isn't effective. Some practices will offer a voucher toward a prescription device if a trial fails. Costs vary widely and are composed of several elements: the device hardware, initial fitting and programming, follow-up visits, warranty and repair coverage, accessories, chargers, domes, ear molds, and consumables like batteries or filters. Clinics differ in how they bundle these items. Some include 2 years of follow-up and loss and damage coverage in the purchase price, others charge separately. Because of that variability, it's essential to ask for an itemized quote and to confirm trial and return policies in writing before purchase. If cost is a limiting factor, discuss phased approaches, testing an OTC amplifier to gauge benefit, choosing a single aid if you have asymmetric loss, or investigating third-party funding sources, such as veterans benefits or partial insurance coverage. Medicare Part B generally does not cover routine hearing aids, though some supplemental plans and the VA do provide support. Check local resources and clinic financing options. Even with an ideal fit and supportive follow-up, set realistic expectations. Many people experience a meaningful reduction in tinnitus annoyance. For some, the improvement is dramatic, for others modest. Expect gradual change. Early reductions in perceived loudness or annoyance may appear within days, but the full benefit often unfolds over weeks to months as your auditory system acclimatizes and as you learn to manage attention and stress.
Combining hearing aids with oral rehabilitation, counseling about tinnitus, strategies for sound enrichment, and stress management tools tends to produce better and more durable outcomes than amplification alone. There are practical complications to be prepared for. Wax buildup, ear infections, moisture, and feedback issues can all reduce device performance and comfort. Custom ear molds can help with feedback and comfort, but require cleaning and occasional replacement. Rechargeable batteries simplify daily life, but need charging routines that fit your habits. Replaceable batteries require dexterity and a supply of cells. Remote adjustments via apps are convenient, but depend on smartphone compatibility and data privacy considerations you should discuss with your clinician. Because tinnitus is often tied to attention and emotion, the non-device side of the plan matters too. Cognitive behavioral therapy for tinnitus, or stress reduction programs, has evidence for reducing tinnitus-related distress and is a powerful adjunct to hearing aid use. Sound therapy guidance, whether delivered through apps, hearing aid streaming, or in-clinic counseling, should be individualized. Don't be surprised if your clinician recommends a combination approach: amplification to restore input, sound enrichment to manage focus, and counseling to reframe reactions. Now, Imagine the typical patient path as a short decision flow you can follow at home. Begin with a formal hearing test and tinnitus history. If red flags are identified, seek ENT evaluation first. If no red flags, discuss prescription hearing aids that match your audiogram and goals, or consider an OTC amplifier as a preliminary step if your hearing loss is mild and symmetric. Insist on a documented trial with specified follow-up visits and outcome measures, and track your baseline and follow-up scores to decide whether to keep, adjust, or return the device. That flow keeps the process experimental and evidence-based. You iterate based on data, not on hope alone. Even this careful, measured approach leads to practical questions people ask every day. Which physical style should I choose? Do I need a tinnitus program? How much should I expect to pay? How long before I notice improvement? Those are the questions most likely to determine whether a device helps you in real life, and we'll get into each of them in detail. We'll look at the pros and cons of RIC versus deep canal fittings, how tinnitus programs are programmed and adjusted, how to structure a trial so you can make a clear decision, and how to interpret the scales you're using so that your choice is based on measurable improvement rather than impression alone.
Before we move into the finer details of features and the step-by-step pick and trial routine, one more clinical caution. Sudden or rapidly worsening tinnitus, tinnitus that's strictly on one side, pulsatile tinnitus that syncs with your heartbeat, facial numbness or weakness, or balance disturbances are not things to try to manage with over-the-counter devices first. These require prompt medical assessment. If you experience any of those, stop and contact an ENT or your primary care clinician right away. Understanding how hearing aids can help and the limits of what they can do arms you to have a productive conversation with a clinician and to run a controlled, measurable trial. You've already taken the first experimental steps by rating your baseline annoyance, sleep, and concentration. The next phase is where device-specific choices and programming details start to matter, matching amplification targets to your audiogram, choosing an appropriate physical style for handling and comfort, deciding whether integrated maskers or streaming-based sound therapy will be part of your routine, and establishing a clear trial protocol with scheduled follow-ups. We'll walk through the exact checklist clinicians should use to match device attributes to your hearing test, the programming settings that matter most for tinnitus, and practical strategies to make sure the trial is fair and informative, so you can decide without guesswork whether a hearing aid is helping you. Here's a practical clinician-ready checklist and the step-by-step roadmap you can use as you move from testing to trialing to deciding whether a hearing aid is helping your tinnitus. This is the part where the experiment becomes concrete. Specific measurements, programming targets, troubleshooting moves, and the paperwork to ask for so you're protected financially while you test what works. Start with the clinic visit checklist. When you schedule a hearing evaluation, ask for these items up front so the appointment is structured and useful for a tinnitus-focused trial. A full audiological evaluation that includes pure tone thresholds across frequencies, speech audiometry, word recognition scores, and tympanometry, ear canal inspection. These tests define whether hearing loss is present, its pattern, and whether there are middle ear issues that need attention first. A tinnitus history intake that documents onset, pattern, continuous versus intermittent, lateralization, one ear versus both, perceived pitch and loudness, factors that change it, noise exposure, caffeine, stress, and the impact on sleep, concentration, and mood. A written plan for trialing amplification if no medical red flags are found. Clear trial length, 30 to 90 days, what follow-up visits are included, and what the return refund policy is. Real ear verification during fitting, or a clear explanation if the clinic doesn't perform real ear measures, because objective verification helps ensure the device is delivering the amplification intended by the fitting prescription. A discussion of tinnitus management features that the clinic can program, integrated maskers, streaming sound options, multiple listening programs, and whether remote fine-tuning is available. An itemized quote that separates device cost from clinical services and shows warranty, loss and damage coverage, and accessory pricing. A brief counseling session about expectations, timeline for change, common adjustments, and simple at-home strategies to support habituation, sleep hygiene, stress management, sound enrichment routines. If the clinic won't provide these basics, consider seeking a different provider. Good care is systematic and transparent. How clinicians typically match hearing aids to your audiogram and goals. There are a few standard fitting prescriptions used in clinical practice. Names like NAL-NL2 or DSL exist, but the practical takeaway is this. Your audiologist will use your hearing thresholds to set an initial amplification target for each frequency, so soft sounds become audible, speech is clearer, and loud sounds remain comfortable. For tinnitus management, these targets are important, because if amplification is too low, background sounds remain weak and your tinnitus contrast isn't reduced.
If amplification is too high, the sound can be uncomfortable or exacerbate sensitivity and may increase stress, which can worsen tinnitus. The clinic should verify fitting with a probe microphone real ear measurement, so the sound delivered in your ear canal matches the intended targets. Ask to see a screenshot or printout of the real ear curve. It's objective evidence the device is working as programmed. Programming tinnitus features, practical settings, and starting points. If a clinician offers a tinnitus program, know what to expect and what to ask for. Masker type. Many clinicians start with broadband sounds, white or pink noise, or low-level ocean or ambient tracks. Broadband noise provides a stable acoustic background. Pink noise is often perceived as softer and less harsh than white noise because it has relatively more energy in the lower frequencies. Masker level, begin low. The goal for many patients is sound enrichment and contrast reduction, not complete masking. A common clinical approach is to set the masker at a level that makes the tinnitus a bit less noticeable without making the masker itself the main focus. If the masker is too loud, it can become annoying and reduce daily wear. Use of streaming apps. If you plan to stream relaxation tracks from a phone, test a few sound types. Some people prefer nature sounds, others find voices or guided meditations more helpful. Streaming is useful at night while falling asleep, but note it can drain battery life.
Program switching. Request multiple listening programs that are easy to toggle. One for quiet environments may include a slightly higher masking baseline. One for noisy places prioritizes directional mics and speech clarity. And one for sleep, optional, with streaming or quieter masker. Microphone settings. Directional microphones help in noisy social situations, but can reduce ambient sound in quiet rooms, which sometimes increases tinnitus contrast. Ask for manual control or a program that opens mic directionality in very quiet situations. Notched music or notch filter claims. Some devices offer notched frequency approaches aimed at reducing activity at the tinnitus pitch. Evidence is mixed. These features are experimental and not guaranteed. If a device includes notched options, treat them as an add-on to test rather than a promised cure. Practical programming sequences clinicians often use. 1. Initial fitting to hearing prescription targets with open communication about comfort. 2. Add a tinnitus program at a low masker level or stream a preferred sound for sound enrichment. 3. Instruct the patient on consistent wear. Aim for several hours a day, including periods when tinnitus is most bothersome, evening or during quiet tasks. 4. Follow up at 2 weeks to check comfort and preliminary changes on your outcome scales. 5. Adjust masker level and gain as needed at 6 weeks and 3 months, guided by your scores in reports. Defining and measuring outcomes during the trial. Track simple, reproducible metrics during the trial, so you can decide based on data. Daily wear time, hours per day. Consistent use is required to give your auditory system time to adapt. Inconsistent wear weakens potential benefits. Tinnitus annoyance 0 to 10 scale, same scale you used for baseline, recorded daily or every few days. Sleep quality 0 to 10 scale. Note sleep onset time and total sleep duration. Sometimes hearing aids or streaming help you fall asleep but not stay asleep, so track both. Concentration/fatigue 0 to 10 scale during demanding listening tasks, meetings, restaurants. A short qualitative journal entry. Note specific wins, less startle at night, easier conversation, and problems, feedback, discomfort. Optional standardized measures. If your clinician uses questionnaires like the Tinnitus Handicap Inventory, THI, or Tinnitus Functional Index, TFI, these provide validated comparison points. A clinically meaningful change in TFI or THI is often used to gauge significant improvement. Set reassessment points at 2 weeks, 6 weeks, and 3 months. Many clinics use this cadence. An early visit catches obvious fitting issues, the mid-visit refines masker level and directional mic balance, and the 3-month review measures whether the trial is producing durable improvement. What to consider in a fair trial, so you can interpret results. 2 things unfairly bias the trial against hearing aids: underuse and lack of follow-up.
Make the trial fair by wearing the device for a target number of hours per day, clinician recommended, commonly 6 to 10 hours, including at least one period when tinnitus is most noticeable. Using the tinnitus program or streaming at least some of the time. If you avoid the masker entirely, you cannot judge its effect. Recording the metrics regularly and bringing them to follow-up visits. Ensuring follow-up programming adjustments are available without extra hidden fees. If you follow the clinic's trial plan and don't see meaningful change by 90 days, that's useful data. You either need further adjustments, a different device style, or an adjunct approach such as CBT or dedicated sound therapy. Choosing a style, practical trade-offs, and compatibility with tinnitus goals. We already covered the high-level differences between RIC, BTE, ITE, and CIC styles. But when tinnitus is the main concern alongside hearing loss, these are the specific trade-offs. Open-fit RICs generally reduce occlusion, the plugged-up feeling, provide good situational hearing, and allow more natural ambient sound.
For many tinnitus patients, an open fit can be helpful because it preserves environmental sound and reduces the perception of plugged ears. However, open fits provide less low-frequency gain without custom molds, so they're better for high-frequency losses. Closed ear custom ITE-CIC reduce feedback and can increase low-frequency audibility, which may help certain tinnitus profiles. They can also provide a better seal for integrated maskers because the sound is more contained. But they are harder to handle, more susceptible to wax problems, and may amplify bone-conducted sound, leading to an occlusion effect that some find uncomfortable. BTE with ear mold. Robust, easy to handle for people with dexterity issues, and can accommodate more powerful amplification for more severe losses. Ear molds can be vented to reduce occlusion effects and allow more natural low-frequency sound, which may be beneficial for some tinnitus listeners. Cross B-cross. For single-sided deafness when tinnitus is on the poor ear, rerouting sound to the better ear can aid spatial awareness and reduce listening effort, which might indirectly reduce tinnitus bother. When you meet your clinician, discuss the typical listening environments you face and your handling preferences. If you dread small batteries or have arthritis, prioritize rechargeable BTE or RIC with larger controls. If cosmetics are paramount and you're comfortable with in-ear handling, consider a custom ITE with clear trial expectations about feedback and wax care. Troubleshooting common problems and what to do next. During the trial period, you'll likely encounter a few predictable issues. Feedback whistling, most often caused by a poor seal, ill-fitting dome, or earwax. Don't immediately blame the device. Ask the clinic about dome size, ear mold shape, or the need to remove earwax.
Sometimes a different venting option fixes feedback while preserving comfort. Ear occlusion, plugged feeling. Try a more open dome or a vented ear mold. If occlusion persists, consider a different style that reduces the plugged sensation. Wax and discomfort. Custom molds and deep canal devices need more care. Ask the clinic to show cleaning routines. If you have excessive cerumen, get a professional cleaning before the fitting to reduce feedback and improve comfort. Reduced battery life. Heavy streaming of audio via Bluetooth shortens battery life and may change your daily wearing routine. Consider rechargeable options if you rely on streaming frequently. No perceived benefit after a few weeks. Confirm the device met real ear targets. If not, ask for real ear verification and reprogramming. If targets are met but tinnitus annoyance hasn't improved, adjust masker type level, consider counseling or CBT adjuncts, or try a different device style. If the clinic is unwilling to adjust, request a transfer of trial credit to another device or seek a second opinion. Increased tinnitus after fitting. Occasionally, amplification can temporarily increase tinnitus perception as the auditory system readjusts. If this happens, report it promptly. The clinician can reduce gain, change masker settings, or prescribe a short break schedule to let your auditory system settle. If tinnitus markedly worsens, recheck for medical red flags and consider ENT referral. Cost, financing, and how to ask for transparent pricing. Cost is one of the biggest decision drivers. Here's a practical way to frame it and to ask clinics the right questions. Understand the components: device unit price, fitting/programming fee, number of included follow-up visits, warranty length and coverage details, loss/damage/repair, accessories, charger, remote mic, and consumable costs, batteries, filters, domes. Typical price bands in general U.S. practice. These are ranges and vary by region and clinic. Ask for local quotes. Budget or economy level, entry-level prescription devices or cheaper clinic bundles that may run at the lower end of the prescription market. These still include professional fitting but have fewer features and limited follow-up in some cases. Mid-range, more feature-rich devices with better noise reduction, directional mics, and extended warranty options. Many patients find this tier balances cost and performance. Premium, devices with the latest chips, advanced streaming, extended teleaudiology support, and comprehensive bundled services. Request an itemized written quote that shows which services are included in the purchase price and which are extra. Specifically ask, how many follow-up visits are included? Is real ear verification part of the initial fitting? What is the return policy and how are refunds handled if the device is returned mid-trial?
Insurance and government programs. Medicare Part B generally does not cover routine hearing aids, though certain supplemental plans and state programs may offer partial coverage. The VA provides benefits for eligible veterans and often covers standard hearing devices for qualifying conditions. Check eligibility and what is covered. Flexible spending accounts, FSA, or health savings accounts, HSA, may be used for hearing aid purchase depending on your plan rules. Financing and vouchers. Ask whether the clinic has financing plans, interest-free windows, or third-party payment options. If you're testing an OTC device and it fails, some clinics will offer a voucher toward a prescription device. Get the terms in writing. Estimate ongoing costs. Disposable battery users should budget for batteries and filters annually. Rechargeable device users should expect eventual battery pack replacement every few years. Routine cleaning and maintenance might be included in some warranties but not all. How to talk to the clinic, sample questions, and scripts. It helps to arrive prepared. Here are concise phrases you can use. I am primarily trialing hearing aids for tinnitus relief in addition to hearing improvement. Can you outline the trial length, included follow-ups, and return policy in writing? Will you perform real ear verification during fitting, and can I have a copy of the printout?
Which tinnitus programs and masker types can this device offer? Can we start masker level low and adjust over follow-ups? If I stream audio frequently, how will that affect battery life, and is a rechargeable option available? What is included in the price you're quoting? Please itemize device cost, fitting, follow-ups, and warranty coverage. If the first device doesn't help my tinnitus, can I try a different style or have partial credit applied toward another device? Adjuncts, alternatives, and combined approaches that often work best. Hearing aids are powerful for people with hearing loss, but multimodal care is common and evidence-informed. Cognitive behavioral therapy for tinnitus. A strong evidence base shows CBT reduces tinnitus-related distress by changing reactions and maladaptive thoughts about the sound. CBT is complementary to amplification and is often delivered by psychologists, audiologists with CBT training, or specialized tinnitus clinics. Sound enrichment routines. Scheduled use of sound at low levels during evening periods or while falling asleep supports habituation. These can be delivered through hearing aid streaming, bedside sound machines, or smartphone apps, but personalization is key. Some sounds irritate rather than help. Mindfulness and relaxation training. Simple breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, and mindfulness meditations reduce the stress responses that amplify tinnitus. These are low-risk, accessible adjuncts.
Hearing protection and noise management. Avoid unnecessary loud noise exposure. Use proper hearing protection in loud environments. Paradoxically, consistent avoidance of moderate sound can worsen contrast effects. Assistive listening devices. Remote microphones and FM/DM systems can reduce listening effort in difficult environments, such as conferences or restaurants, and indirectly lower tinnitus bother by reducing fatigue. Medical evaluation. ENT assessment for red flags, or if you have asymmetric or unilateral tinnitus. Imaging or further medical workup may be appropriate in specific situations, but most tinnitus without red flags is not a surgical problem. Cochlear implants. For those with profound bilateral hearing loss who meet candidacy criteria, cochlear implants can reduce tinnitus in many recipients. This is an option only after ENT evaluation and when implants are indicated for auditory rehabilitation. Special considerations for certain patient archetypes. Tailor recommendations based on common scenarios. Mild symmetric loss and cost constraints. An OTC amplifier can be a low-cost experiment if you're comfortable with self-adjustment, but still get an audiological evaluation first to rule out asymmetric loss or red flags. If OTC helps, consider moving to prescription devices for better verification and support. Asymmetric or unilateral tinnitus. Get an audiological assessment promptly. Asymmetric hearing loss or unilateral tinnitus raises the chance of medical causes requiring ENT evaluation. Severe sleep disruption from tinnitus. Focus the trial on sleep strategies, dedicated sleep programs on hearing aids, bedside sound enrichment, and sleep hygiene routines. Consider CBT techniques aimed at sleep and tinnitus. Veterans and active duty. Check VA benefits as they often provide diagnostic and device coverage. Ensure your audiological report is thorough and documents functional impact. Long-term follow-up, maintenance, and when to revisit decisions. After the trial and a decision to keep devices, plan for routine follow-up. A fitting review at 3 months after the initial fitting is a common checkpoint to confirm benefits and reprogram if needed. Annual or semi-annual checkups for hearing assessment, device cleaning, and software updates are recommended. Replace domes, wax guards, and filters per manufacturer recommendations. These small consumables preserve sound quality and prevent failures. Expect rechargeable batteries to last 2 to 5 years depending on model. Plan for replacement costs in your household budget. If your hearing changes over time, you may need refitting or a new device. Hearing loss is not static for many people, so periodic reevaluation is important. How to interpret trial results and make the final decision. Use the experimental framework you set up at the start. Review your baseline versus follow-up scores on tinnitus annoyance, sleep, concentration, and daily wear time. Look for sustained change rather than a single-day improvement. Consider what clinicians call clinically meaningful change. For example, a drop of 2 or more points on a 0 to 10 annoyance scale is often noticeable in daily life. Validated questionnaires have their own thresholds for meaningful change. Weigh qualitative changes. Are conversations less tiring? Are you startled less often at night? Do you feel more relaxed in quiet settings? If benefit is modest but present, discuss programming tweaks or adjunct therapy, CBT, counseling, or targeted sound therapy, rather than immediate return. If no benefit is observed despite appropriate fitting and consistent wear, use the clinic's return policy. Treat that as data. The device didn't produce the desired result for you personally, and that's valid. Safety and red flags revisited. If you have any of these, stop self-trial and get urgent medical evaluation. Sudden hearing loss in one ear or both. Tinnitus that is strictly on one side, new
or worsening rapidly. Pulsatile tinnitus that follows the heartbeat. Neurological symptoms, facial weakness, numbness, or balance problems. Marked increase in tinnitus severity after a fitting that doesn't respond to programming adjustments. These signs could indicate medical problems that need imaging, blood pressure checks, or specialist referral. An audiologist will refer you to ENT when appropriate. A realistic timeline and what to expect emotionally. Remember that hearing aid benefit for tinnitus is rarely immediate and absolute. Many people report early improvements in annoyance or sleep, but full acclimatization may take weeks to months. There can be emotional ups and downs. Early excitement that fades if the masker becomes bothersome, brief increases in tinnitus as your auditory system recalibrates, frustration with fittings or with the logistics of care. Bring those emotional reactions up with your clinician. They're normal, and counseling or CBT can help you navigate them while programming is adjusted. Examples of reasonable expectations people commonly find helpful to hold. I expect to see a small but consistent drop in daily tinnitus annoyance within 2 to 6 weeks if the device is helping. If a device makes no measurable improvement after a fair, adjusted trial, I will return it and try a different approach. I understand hearing aids may reduce the impact of tinnitus, but are unlikely to completely eliminate the sound. A short wrap-up checklist you can print or keep on your phone as you visit clinics. Get a documented baseline: tinnitus annoyance 0 to 10, sleep 0 to 10, concentration 0 to 10. Schedule a full audiological evaluation and document red flag review. Ask for real ear verification and a printed copy of the fitting data. Confirm trial length, 30 to 90 days, included follow-up visits and return/refund policy in writing.
Confirm what tinnitus programs and masker types are available and request low-level starting settings. Prioritize features that increase consistent wear, comfort, rechargeability, remote control, simple care. Track wear time and outcome metrics at 2 weeks, 6 weeks, and 3 months. If no clear benefit after adequate trials and adjustments, return the device per policy and explore alternative or adjunct therapies. These steps protect you financially and clinically, and they turn hope into testable outcomes. Final practical notes on lifestyle and low-risk adjunct strategies while you trial devices. Maintain regular sleep routines and a quiet but not deeply silent bedroom sound level. A fan, low-volume stream, or soft noise can reduce contrast. Reduce caffeine and nicotine if you notice they increase perceived tinnitus, but don't make abrupt major medical changes without discussing with your clinician. Schedule short periods of deliberate sound enrichment during the day, soft music or environmental sounds, to help reduce tinnitus focus. Practice simple relaxation techniques before bed. Even 5 minutes of diaphragmatic breathing can lower arousal and make tinnitus less intrusive. Protect ears from loud noise. Use appropriately rated hearing protection rather than earplugs that cause deep isolation for long stretches, which can increase contrast effects. When different options make sense for particular goals. As a quick decision guide, if your primary problem is speech understanding and you have measurable hearing loss, start with a clinic-fitted hearing aid aimed to improve communication. Tinnitus benefit often follows. If your primary problem is sleep disruption from tinnitus and hearing is relatively normal, consider sound enrichment devices, bedside sound generators, or targeted sleep programs. Still get a hearing check first. If cost is the main barrier and you have mild symmetric loss, an OTC amplifier can be a low-cost first experiment. Follow up with audiology if results are limited. If tinnitus is unilateral, pulsatile, or sudden, do not trial devices first. Get ENT evaluation. Closing realistic summary and next steps. Hearing aids are not a guaranteed cure for tinnitus, but for many people with coexisting hearing loss, they reduce perceived tinnitus impact through reduced contrast, sound enrichment, and by lowering listening effort. The key to success is not the brand or the headline feature list. It's a systematic experiment, objective baseline measurements, a professionally verified fitting, a documented trial with predictable follow-ups, and careful outcome measurement. Prioritize clinics that offer real ear verification, transparent pricing, and a reasonable trial and follow-up plan. If you're ready to move forward today, book a hearing test with an audiologist who understands tinnitus and ask for a tinnitus-focused trial plan.
Bring the checklist you've just read to your appointment and request real ear verification, a low-level tinnitus program to start, and clear documentation of trial length and return policy. If you have any red flag signs, contact your ENT or primary care clinician first. If you want step-by-step help preparing for your appointment, download the Hearing Aid for Tinnitus checklist linked below, where you'll find the baseline score sheet, the clinic question list, and a printable trial log to record your daily ratings. Try the structured trial, measure your outcomes at 2 weeks, 6 weeks, and 3 months, and then decide based on data. Keep and refine, or return and pursue alternative or adjunct solutions. Book that hearing test and give the experiment a fair run. The data you collect will let you know whether a hearing aid truly reduces the impact of tinnitus in your life. If you have questions about specific scenarios from your experience, share them in the comments or bring them to your clinician so they can tailor the trial to your needs.